Hi, everyone! Black Widow is finally getting her own solo movie. Marvel has ordered a script for Scarlett Johansson's longtime female Avenger, presenting so many questions. What Marvel storylines could be adapted to the screen? What other Avengers could appear with her? No, this is not about her co-stars. This is about Black Widow being the sole star of the story. Finally, guys. We're going to dig into this, but first, we just want to welcome you to New Rockstars News. This is our weekly deep dive into all the biggest stories this week. Hello. So in addition to Black Widow, we're going to talk about the possibility of Black Panther leading the Avengers in the future. We're going to talk about
being the leader of the Avengers.
Could he?
Ooh,
the leader, not just part of them?
Insane.
We're going to get into some details that came out about Venom and some details that came out about an interesting cake. We're going to analyze the cake.
The cake. We're going to do a cake down.
We're going to do a cake down.
Yay!
But it's a really good cake down.
Oh, you guys are going to love
you guys
this
need
cake down.
to stick around for that.
You're going to go back for second helpings on this cake down. Well, I'm Erik Voss. These Carol Hands joining me in this nerdy roundup.
Hello, it is me, Sam Bashor.
Why are we cowboys? I'm Philip Molina, and I've been gone too long.
I made a choice.
And I didn't support it.
Okay, let's get started with our top story, guys. Marvel's announcement this week that they have hired a screenwriter to produce a script for a Black Widow solo film. Yes.
Yay! Kids sound.
Proper
Yay!
celebration.
Now, this doesn't mean that the movie has been officially greenlit. It's just a positive step forward. I don't see them turning back now. I mean, Scarlett Johansson has been a huge movie star for like a decade now. It's been a long time coming. But the writer of this film is Jac Schaeffer. Now,
She's very new. She wrote a really little gem rom-com you can catch on Netflix. It's called Timer. It just has a nice benefit. It's very low budget, so don't expect a lot from it. But a nice benefit to me, you need a little sci-fi in your rom-com. Tiny little bit of sci-fi. This happy version of the Black Mirror of how much time do you have with this person.
Hang the DJ. Yeah. She's very much a newcomer, and that seems to be kind of her style. She also was known for like a Blacklist favorite. It's a list of popular scripts that pass around Hollywood. It's called The Shower. It's about an alien invasion that takes place during a baby shower. That's supposed to be coming out in the next couple of years.
That's cool.
There's also
Cloverfield with babies.
Cloverfield with babies.
With pregnant ladies.
And a couple other things that you may be aware of. A project called Nasty Woman. It's a female version of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And then she also wrote the Disney short Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which I know, in my opinion, it was a lot better than the shit it got when it played.
Yeah, you shouldn't put a 20-minute movie in front of a movie that you wanted to watch.
Just too long.
Just too long.
But I feel like kids are going to watch it every year, every Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah. I got to watch Coco without it, and I was very thankful for that. But I'm sure good for her. That's great.
Well, now it's still incredibly early. I think we should discuss the possible plot of this movie. Now, these are just our best guesses based on the rumors that we've heard and the most popular Black Widow storylines from the comics. They might go another way, but if we had to bet on it, this would be our picks for the most likely ways that they will go.
So this is researched, most likely.
Yes. These are the most popular Black Widow, coolest, and not just most popular, most adaptable to film. Like, you could see this being a good film. Gotcha. Okay, so first there's the Itsy Bitsy Spider storyline from the comics. In that story, a young Russian spy named Yelena Belova targets Natasha, hoping to take away the title of Black Widow from her. It's extremely popular and well done comic issue that could introduce another female lead into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So you could see them casting any young upstart to join this pantheon of players.
Fanning.
Does that character play a bigger role? Because I'm not familiar with that character's name.
She does, and there's a couple different issues and miniseries that she comes back in. Cool. There's one called Breakdown where they end up kind of switching identities. So she is kind of a recurring character who could be interesting.
They actually kind of adapted a version of it for the TV show Alias a lot of years ago. But it's one of the best storylines in the show. And then they actually do switch. There's like a body double. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, second, Marvel could be considering adapting parts of the 80s Web of Intrigue storyline in which 6 world-class assassins target Natasha to keep her busy while a doppelganger of her plots to kill Nick Fury.
Whoa.
Different doppelganger, not
Yelena. Yeah. But this is another huge action storyline that would allow Scarlett Johansson to show off her acting skills because presumably she would play this lookalike as well. So
and she's, this doesn't even need to be said, but just I'd be awesome to see a really, really well choreographed fight scene of hers because from right when she started, she's just blown us away.
Yeah. There's also a really popular storyline called Name of the Rose, where, like in many Black Widow stories, she gets labeled an enemy of the state and has to clear her name. But what's cool about this one is there's a lot of supporting cameos, including Iron Man and Wolverine. And now that Disney owns Fox, it's possible for X-Men characters like Wolverine to appear in these stories. So who knows, now that they have so many assets to pull from, I feel like that we can see all kinds of people pop up in the story. But let's take this into our pitch room. Like using these plot details or really any dream scenario you guys would like to see or previous film that could like serve as an inspiration. Let's pitch what you want this Black Widow movie to look like.
Okay, I'll go mostly because I'll forget all of it if I don't say it. Okay, cool. So we have Black Widow. The best version of Black Widow is Black Widow actually playing undercover, in my opinion. I really like that element of the character, and I feel like they never do enough with it. Instead, she just is like a gymnast fighter that does that one move that like is an awesome takedown.
The flips,
but
around
exactly.
the neck and everything.
But she's actually so much more capable. I mean, she's like kind of an inspiration for Alias and characters like that. And Salt is another good example. Or Black Widow might have inspired Red Sparrow, which will be coming soon with Jennifer Lawrence. But in my version, it's a similar storyline that she's labeled an enemy of the state, but it's because the president of the United States is just dead. He's been killed, he's been murdered, and DNA evidence links it back to her. The mild amount of records that they have just apply. It's Romanov again. So they label her an enemy of the state, but at the same time, she knows it wasn't her, but she does know that it's a former Russian agent that went through the same training as her, and so she starts trying to find out which one it is and exposing them. So the old program activates all of the Russian agents who are still currently in the United States living secret undercover lives to kill her, and it becomes kind of like the Bourne Identity, where all of the other ones that have the same level of training are all activated and trying to kill him specifically. They're all trying to kill her specifically. The big thing that she has to do is, one, she has to stay undercover because both the FBI and everyone's looking for her, but also so are the Russians. So she has to play a bunch of different roles, a bunch of different costumes, and stay in hiding while they hunt her. And they're like the best at doing that kind of hiding, so they know how she would hide and like where her hideouts would be and whatever and all that stuff. It's kind of like how I feel like Civil War should have done Captain America's storyline, because that's how it is in the comics, and I love that, going underground and having to like kind of be disguised all the time. It plays out a little bit like Winter Soldier too, in terms of like the tone. And then the crazy thing is the DNA evidence is linked through mitochondrial DNA, which means that the only other person that potentially could have killed the president is her mother.
Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mama Black Widow.
That was completely improvised.
Nice.
Well done.
I had never thought those thoughts before.
Very Patton Oswalt rant for Parks and Rec. That was
I just watched that recently.
Like
So I like the idea of having to go up against the Russians and the United States, because I think that really works for their character. The only thing is I'm scared of it, because I was thinking that too, that it would tread kind of the same territory that Winter Soldier did a little bit, of having a whole government go down. It's my favorite. I think Civil War has my favorite like moments, but with Winter Soldier is like the tightest, best thriller that the MCU's been able to make. So more of that, I'd be very happy. But I think what could make this movie really, really special, while I haven't like picked like an antagonist for, because I think any number of government agencies would be interesting. Like I think it'd be really interesting if we focused in London and like we got to actually like see like MI6 and like whatever like British heroes that we want to like play around with. I think that'd be really cool. If we got X-Men, maybe you could do Excalibur, and you could do like a dumbed down version of that. But anyways, what I think that would make this movie so special is if you did it stylized. And I kind of think like Wes Anderson, but less pastel and kind of like like a pop-up book, more like solid colors, like there's a lot of reds
on FX.
Noah Hawley. Yeah. So a lot of like I want to get a lot of action shots where she's the center of the frame, she's the center of her film, and you get like contrasts with like red and white and black, and like you get to kind of play with these colors. Like of course Marvel already does that with their shows. Like the best example is the first 6 episodes of Daredevil season 1, like how like there's yellows and browns and you get little hints of red and black. And I think if you do a lot of that with her, it would make her movie really, really special. And I know we're getting like we have had Atomic Blonde, Red Sparrow's coming out, and Salt and stuff, but like it sucks because these movies don't really like, they kind of, for me, they haven't met my expectations of what I expect, like what they could do with this exactly. Like John Wick is like the closest I've ever been like to be happy with this type of genre. But I think if you add a lot of style to her, because if you look at the most recent, she had an amazing run with, Mark Waid wrote The Run, and Chris Samney. He did the art, and it's a lot of pastels and kind of like this Jetsons 1960s era design. And it's a lot of just like solid red, just her, like the silhouette of her face in white. And it's like, this would be so cool if you really nailed this kind of color. Kind of like the intro to any Bond film with the gun barrel following him. I think that would be really helpful for her. It would get a lot of film nerds on board, and I think this movie could really make Marvel or put them on a map in a different way.
Yeah. There's a movie called Lucky Number 11, which is like a stylized action, but it actually is an action comedy, which could be fun too. Your thing would lend itself very much to be set in a different time too.
Yes, I think 80s would be really interesting. It would be tough because like you could do an 80s feel to this movie and make it like maybe early 2000s or something like that. But it would be really cool to have it Cold War.
Right? Yeah. It Follows was a 80s feel, but it was technically maybe the future.
Timeless.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, with their phones were crazy. Yeah, it was interesting you mentioned comedy. Like, Taika Waititi, he was asked about like what would a Black Widow movie, what should it look like, and he wanted it to be more comedic. He thought that because her storylines and her backstory always seem so dour and serious, I think it'd be more fun to like explore a lighthearted approach. Personally,
she does get super depressed. Sorry not to step on it, but like when we got into Avengers 2, it was like, yes, they took away my reproductive organs, and I was like, whoa. Well, not that didn't add something to her, but I was like, give her a win every once in a while. Like, this is rough, but I would like that. Also, Hawkeye would be. I know that's always been the pitch, is them together, but they do work really well together. Also, her and Bucky as well. And I think the red star in his arm and the red in her hair and everything would make a very good poster.
Yeah, so I could see that. I mean, you'd mentioned Winter Soldier, and I think for me, what worked really well is it was the first time I remember in the MCU feeling like a different genre. Like, it felt like an old school espionage thriller, espionage, where like the spy angle and the government conspiracy was kind of the driving plot point. And I think they could go even further down that road, bringing something into the 80s. I would love to see. I don't need an origin story for Black Widow. Like, I feel like I like kind of
we've seen flashbacks to it.
Yeah, we've seen some flashbacks to it. I would love an entire, because I'm really into the show The Americans on FX, which
so good.
The present timeline. Oh, it's so fantastic. Somehow it's like gone 5 seasons and people still haven't really like it's fantastic. It's set in the 80s with 2 Soviet spies who are embedded as Americans, posing as Americans with the family, trying to undercut the government operations and enact
during
Soviets.
The Cold War.
Yeah, during the Cold War, during the Reagan era Cold War. But they do flashbacks, at least in the first season, and I think throughout, to their time rising up through the KGB in the 60s, and the different mentors they had and the way they met and were kind of programmed to act like a married couple. I think there could be something to that, something similar to that kind of feel with Black Widow's storyline set in the 80s, seeing the people who trained her and they betrayed her, because I think it is interesting when we saw in Winter Soldier how we learn not to trust S.H.I.E.L.D. and we learn not to trust big government, and I think that's even further involved when people like look into the KGB, how many of their assets they burned, how many of them they just were given basic information that was wrong and they were just put on the suicide mission. I'd like to see Natasha's reaction to that world and how she escaped it.
That'd be really cool. I just had this idea that, like, I mean, they talk about that she came from a facility that trained women like this, and they've definitely, like, having like one of the other women that wants to be the new Black Widow, I think it'd be okay to play with a bunch of them. Like, as in, like, you get this moment where, you know, there's a woman out there that's doing this, and you kind of get spoilers for Arkham City that came out like 10 years ago now, but like that there's more than one, and that's what the reveal is, that, you know, there's another one, there's a copycat, but then you get into a room where like Natasha's talking one-on-one with this other girl, and it's like trying to talk her out of like the Red Room training, and like she maybe has keywords for herself to talk herself out of like this brainwashing, but then you realize that she's not the only person in the room, and like there's 6 other women there, and that's why this girl has been so efficient at taking down like parts of the government or other governments all around the world, or spy agencies. You're like, and I want to see an action set piece where like basically what would be an example of it? Like, it's, you always get like the group of soldiers that go into like the supernatural threat and like, no, we can take them down, and you're just like, oh no, we can see the full capabilities of what this thing can do. But you get it with like 6 women just like
who
taking
are all
down
Black Widows.
yeah, and they're swinging from the ceiling. feeling they're all doing like the neck spins, and it's like,
and Natasha's like their general leader.
Oh, I mean, you could get that, but I mean, like her trying to figure out a way to actually like take down that. And, like,
that group.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
that group. That group. No,
okay.
is that group's the one that's like still ingrained in like someone's taking control of whatever their programming is, and she has to figure out a way to like. She doesn't want to kill them because she knows what they've been through, and like she knows they can get better. And so you get like a lot of heart out of that.
Your idea should meet my idea, and they should combine so that all those people that are coming after her are those women that were fellow Black Widows. Also, I think you would like season 7 of Buffy.
Yeah.
Where all the potential Slayers get activated all around the world. Yeah.
That's cool. I should watch Buffy. I've seen Angel. I should watch Buffy.
How did you only watch Angel?
Well, let us know what version of a Black Widow movie you'd like to see, whether it's some kind of adaptation of a story that we've seen before, or something from the comics, or some kind of new way that you would like to see her expand the universe of the MCU, and what other people that maybe you'd like to see her team up with, or would you like to just see her be alone in a movie and create new characters?
Hawkeye, Mockingbird, anybody from S.H.I.E.L.D. that they wanted to pull over, like that show
really
exists.
connected to S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But for now, let's move on to this week's trivia question, which it's going to be keeping things Black Widow related.
Wow.
Apparently. Okay, so our question, what alias did Natasha Romanov use when she first met Tony Stark when she was embedded as a legal notary in his company in Iron Man 2? She apparently used a fake name that he later called out as BS.
I'm also doing that rewatch. Watch one MCU movie a week until Avengers: Infinity War. So I'm watching Hulk tomorrow, and I'm very excited.
And then Iron Man 2.
And then Iron Man 2. Dang.
Let's see. As we write down answers, just to keep you guys entertained, I'm going to use the screen behind me of the two of the meeting. I'm gonna, I guess, rewrite the dialogue between Tony and Natasha here, and share with you my fan fiction version of this moment. Cool. They're writing, so it doesn't matter. I can't really say what I want to say to you right now, because Pepper's right over there. But I want you to quit so that you and I can explore what we were meant to explore. In 8 years, that's gonna end your career, because you'll find out how time is up, and I don't like your eye line right now, Stark.
I'm worth money.
Strange fan fiction.
It's very politically charged, and I haven't written down anything. That sounds good. Tweet your rage at me for my fan fiction, and it seems like we have some answers now. No, as always, we will reveal this exciting answer at the end of the episode.
You can leave your guesses in the comments, and then we'll have to do the thing where we trust you that you didn't look it up.
Yeah.
My favorite thing I ever saw on YouTube comments was freestyle rapping. It's like off top of the dome. It's like, when was it?
Well, the closest answer, as decided by our judges, we'll do our sign-off goodbyes at the end of the video and do whatever, dumb voice or bit or amazing new character they're trying out.
Tank.
Tank, I gave you a little taste of my cowhand character. Maybe he'll come back. We'll see. Meanwhile, the loser will have to read our In Other News wrap-up headlines and be hilarious on the spot.
I'm great at that.
Sounds great.
Cool. Moving on.
Well, folks, Black Panther has been breaking records for first-day ticket pre-sales, setting up to be one of the biggest Marvel movies ever. Meanwhile, many have speculated that Avengers: Infinity War, while also looking like a massive blockbuster hit, of course, will actually be pretty bleak for many of its characters, with the old guard like Iron Man, Tony Stark, Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Thor perhaps on the chopping block.
Dun, dun, dun.
Marvel has signaled that the second of the two upcoming Avengers movies will signal a major turning point into Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, suggesting that one or more of these frontmen may die. Now, if Black Panther ends up being the smash hit it's looking to be, could that set him up to lead the Avengers into the next era? Could he be the next Iron Man? I thought we'd look at this Black Panther, Iron Man parallel by comparison. What qualities do T'Challa and Tony Stark share that could poise Black Panther to be the new face of Marvel the way Iron Man has been? First thing I thought we'd look at is maybe if you look at it, they have similar stories. Both are sort of privileged sons having to earn their position to build on their father's legacy. Now, you could talk about T'Challa having a slightly different sort of privilege than Tony Stark did, but both of them are kind of heir apparents to these huge empires.
Oh no, and they're very influential. Like now, like for Wakanda becoming a bigger part of the international community, but also he's a big problem. Like he made weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
Like he needs to like come to terms with that. So yeah, no, they're very similar.
And actually, despite them being both heirs apparent, is actually only Black Panther who is really in an experienced leadership role as part of his taking over of his dynasty, where he's a leader of men by blood and also politically. And then Tony Stark is kind of like thrust into a leadership role when it's like, maybe that's why some things have gone wrong.
Yeah, I think in both cases, it just shows how you can never take anything for granted in their stories, right? Like even though they are presumed successors to the Marvel comic titles we know, it's interesting to see these men have to earn these positions. The way that Tony Stark, after he left his exile or his captivity, had to come back and he still had to wrestle control of his company from his former boss or his former colleague, and the way that T'Challa is it looks based off the trailer, is gonna have to wrestle his throne away from the other rivals within the rival tribes in Wakanda,
which is awesome. I'm so excited. And also, I wanted to bring up, if he did lead, you could get a lot of mileage out of what it would mean for a king to run a global strike force, and that's a huge problem. Like that doesn't, like in my mind, I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. Him and Captain Marvel, they'll fly around and do whatever. And it's like, no, a king invading, like if they went into China, like that would be a huge problem.
Yeah,
right. Well, it's like the Aquaman story.
Yeah. There's that line in the trailer for Black Panther where he goes like, what we decide here, what we do here will affect the entire world. Like there are global implications for what seems to be a pretty intimate conflict. Tony Stark recognized the global responsibility he had in Iron Man. He's been creating these arms that he's seen shown up and fired back at the troops that he made them for and back at himself. And the way that T'Challa realizes whoever controls this technologically superior nation in Wakanda could use that power not just to maintain their isolationist stance, but could use it aggressively and declare war on the rest of the world, which seems like would be a claim and an agenda made by some of these rivals to his position. So it's recognizing with great power comes great responsibility, a common thread there, but could be interesting in this new way of when to pull the punch, in both cases. But I think it's also interesting just on a base level to look at their suit and tech. Like both of them wear super tech suits with fun cutting edge technology that's just really fun to see in action scenes.
Now, I'll say that the Iron Man suit is probably unparalleled in terms of what its actual tech is. That said, it's technically more destructible than Black Panther's suit.
It is. I know you were talking, the camera wasn't looking my way, but I'm just like looking at all the detail and all the craftsmanship in Black Panther's mask, and it's just so cool. I love it. And I love that they're introducing that it's like like nanites, like that can grow over his body. I think that's a pretty fun element.
Vibranium weave that can like grow and stretch. It's hard to tell how exactly it works. It may be from the necklace collar that he wears, and it kind of grows out from that. Or some have suggested it could be based on the the bleeding edge armor from the comics. That it's like
Well, that actually would be a better fit, even though that's ripping off Iron Man too. But something else to realize.
That's always grossed me out so much.
I think it's so cool. But also having Wakanda as his essentially research labs and in terms of his tech, it's probably a lot more efficient than Tony doing everything himself. You ever notice how like all of Tony's things are like just Tony?
Yeah.
Well, he don't sleep.
You don't sleep. I think that's they've established Letitia Wright's character in Black Panther. She's playing his sister Shuri, who's kind of like the Q to his James Bond. She's just working away in this Wakandan lab, molding vibranium into new different weapons and suit and armor stuff. So and she's been compared to to Tony Stark in terms of her brilliance and her engineering prowess. So it'd be conceivable that a lot of the cool stuff that you've seen Tony Stark's armor do, you could see in Black Panther's armor in terms of its weaponry and its capabilities. And also in terms of its like inner processing unit and the way it communicates. Like there was a shot in the Black Panther trailer where you see Shuri driving a car, calling him a show off, and it looks like it's using the same kind of hollow technology that his suit has. So maybe
it looked amazing.
Yeah.
I want to see that car.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that weird Monopoly car that Ben Affleck drove in Justice League.
Yeah.
So many
Kirby's
superhero movies.
Sewer Bat League. The Sewer Bat League.
But I think like on a more thematic level, interesting parallel for me is both are these kind of fantasy badasses that we want to see that are products of the time that they came up in. So Iron Man was kind of this what if response to the messy, frustrating wars that we got into in the Middle East. Like what would happen if we just had a quick morally responsible fix to this, you know? And then Black Panther looks like it's going to be that kind of what if response to our current society where, you know, African Americans are very much oppressed in society. What if there was a nation that existed where they were the dominant class? And let's see this kind of Afrofuturist perspective of what would happen if they were allowed to technologically succeed.
Beyond the United States.
Beyond the United States.
Because there are nations where they are.
Right, of course, yeah, of course. But like imagine if they had, you know, there's this essay called, what is it, Germs, Guns, and Steel, where they looked at why European societies became dominant in global history. And it's just because there was almost this kind of lucky, perfect storm of, you know, why they were able to technologically succeed. And in the Black Panther storyline, they look at what if a vibranium meteorite crashed there, and how would they be able to farm this metal and be able to use it to build a society that is more technologically advanced than anything we've seen in our real world timeline. So in both cases, they're kind of these what if responses to real world events. And I think that made Iron Man super popular in the late 2000s, or in the late aughts, I guess, in the way that it could make Black Panther super popular in 2018 and beyond. What do you guys think?
Especially this week.
Yeah,
this
right
week.
now.
I mean, not to get political with it, just to remind you, though, you know, the president was reportedly said something about the value of immigrants from Africa. And more specific than that, and Haiti, but versus, you know, Norwegians,
right?
And whatever you feel about that, what he is definitely tapping into is the perception of the history of these different places. And I love that idea though of like, what if it was like they're given a almost like a secret weapon,
right?
And just like skip over all history, all perception. It's just like, oh, damn. It's kind of like when Superman lands on Earth a little bit, where it's just kind of like, oh, the game changed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was the main actor who was playing T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
Thank you. He spoke about how they created the accent and how it was supposed to have no European ties to the accent, which I'm like, that's crazy cool. Like that's such a cool idea to add to the accent. I know that must be really difficult since he created something that doesn't exist, or he and his language coaches created something that doesn't exist. I'm just really impressed to see how they taught the other actors how to do that.
Right.
Like it's kind of like when all the Amazons had to copy Gal Gadot's accent because they didn't know what else to do, and it was like they're like, yeah, you guys are gonna just have an Israeli accent now, and it's like that's what Themyscira sounds like.
Yeah, we got into this in some of our breakdowns, but the accent they used at least in Civil War that they're now using in Black Panther is, I forget my problem mispronunciation, but it's Hosa. It has that click. It's a South African dialect that was used by Nelson Mandela and spoken by millions of people in South Africa. But all of the cultural elements that they're trying to use in Black Panther are native African as opposed to European or African American. They're trying to go back to the source. They're using a lot of Nigerian letters, Nsibidi alphabet. It looks like they're using that to base the new Wakandan alphabet. And a lot of the costuming and wardrobe are based on African tribes. We went into this in our recent breakdown. So everything you see on screen is trying to be native African to try to show what, rather than like how things have been changed as they've evolved in the African diaspora, which you absolutely should research. This has been a huge learning experience for me, just like researching things for these videos that we've made out. But like, it's been fascinating to see the research that they've tried to do to make this a truly authentic world that is grounded in real African cultures.
I've got a quick question for you guys. Just how do you think the rest of the team would respond to Black Panther as their leader?
Yeah, I mean, only like, do a lot of them know that about him? Like, do they? Yeah,
he's kind of unknown, other than
he's also, I mean, been a wild card introduction for sure.
Right. I think it's going to depend how things go in Black Panther and in the Infinity War, the first film that's coming out, because it depends who's going to survive this, right? Like, if the new lineup is composed of people like Doctor Strange and Black Widow and Peter Parker, then yeah, I could see them looking at someone who is the king of a technologically advanced nation as someone who is someone worth calling the shots.
I mean, he also is kind of in Avengers Infinity War. Like, you get a shot of him, like, he's giving orders.
Yeah.
There's only one shot where he's not leading the charge, that final shot with Cap, and then he's next to him. But every other shot, he's leading the army out against whatever these aliens are.
I'll throw out there that it complicates things, that he may be a king and they may respect his title, but his duty is to Wakanda.
Right.
And not to where any of the other Avengers are from.
Right. Unless, like, the idea in this and in Civil War was that Wakanda is now trying to be, like, have a bigger hand in the world, or at least, like, have a bigger presence. Sorry, that's the better word to pick. And so the best way to do that is to have basically, I can't think of another word, mascot on your Avengers team that everyone in the world looks up to, and it's like, no, he's from Wakanda, and so let's pay more attention to that. I don't know. It's like it's a good. It makes sense, but also, yeah, you're right. His duties are to his people.
Or it could be a situation where he leaves the duties of ruling the country in the hands of someone else, the way that like Stark did with Pepper Potts, leaving the company day-to-day operations in her.
I think his mom is running it right now.
Yeah. Ramunda, or there's plenty of other characters. Like, we don't know how this relationship is going to go with Michael B. Jordan's character Killmonger. Maybe this guy does have a legitimate claim to the Wakandan throne, and maybe
with
they
the
just
name
gotta work out their
Killmonger.
differences, right?
Yeah.
Maybe tweak the name back to N'Jaka or whatever his other aliases. Who knows? I think there's a lot of different ways it can go, or it could be something similar. Like, I think it's worth comparing him to Captain America, who in Avengers, the first Avengers film, didn't have the same kind of strength that some of these, or powers that the other rivals did, but they just trusted his leadership ability and his ability to keep calm under pressure and be able to understand what other people's assets were and how to deploy them. I could see T'Challa having similar wisdom and similar calm under pressure in the midst of battle that they all eventually respect.
Cool. Well, let us know what you guys think about potentially Black Panther leading the next iteration of the Avengers.
You already listed off an amazing team of Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and Black Panther, and I'm like, I'm happy with that. Throw Captain Marvel in there, and
and X-Men.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
And Black Bolt.
Yeah.
They'll bring him over from the TV show. I invested my time. Now you all have to as well.
We just got real close to doing the Illuminati too.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool.
And if you don't see Black Panther being the one at the top of the chain, maybe is there someone else that you'd like to see take the reins, or one of these other characters that we mentioned, Ant-Man, not Ant-Man, but one of these others. Comment down below or hit us up on Twitter at New Rockstars with your thoughts. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I want Ant-Man to use the Avengers for crime.
Okay, let's move on to some of the other big news this week. Since, by the way, this show does cover all the key stuff that you need to know about, but this news was actually a little hard to make out at first. 2 images were released. First, a look at Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock in the upcoming Venom movie.
Shoot.
What?
Whoa.
Oh my God! Look at that! What?
My
Holy
God.
smokes!
You gotta
Man,
be kidding
so
me.
much is going
I
on.
can't believe they
If you
adapted it so truthfully from the comic.
to Tom Hardy. They just adapted Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy arrived at set one day and some intern took a photo of him. That's our
Later
first
that
look.
day at Starbucks. Like, man, if you
He's
weren't,
taking down all the orders that he got. Yeah.
if you weren't gonna see Venom before,
you sure aren't gonna see him for a couple months.
Well,
but the shirt is the symbiote. So
yes, right, yeah. The detail in that's so well rendered.
The black one or the button-up?
the black one.
Yeah.
Of course.
But also, there's a set photo of the cake at the Avengers Infinity War wrap party. Guys, there's even more to these than meet the eye. We can laugh. But let's pull our obsessive New Rockstars lens out here and zoom in and enhance.
We are actually doing this. We're
doing this,
diving into
guys.
these pictures that people thought were not a big deal.
Okay, first, let's look back at this picture of Tom Hardy. Now, on the surface, this photo seems, kind of lame. Just a shot of Tom Hardy in street clothes.
I wouldn't call him lame.
Some bracelets, or too cool, whatever.
It's exactly as I imagined Eddie Brock, played by Tom Hardy, to look like.
Right. He's got his reporter's notebook, but hey, those notes say something.
Should we?
Zoom in the hands. You can neither zoom nor enhance. When you zoom, you lose resolution. It's so dumb, but we love it. Okay.
Well, hit enhance.
That's
Enhance
the joke
it.
here. I'm
You gotta
explaining
hit
the joke.
enhance.
This is classic Eric over explaining the joke. Okay.
It's a staple of the
okay.
show.
If you look closely, you can see the Life Foundation written down in his notebook. So just to explain, the Life Foundation is from the Marvel Spider-Man comics. They're a society of elites who believe that the world would be destroyed in a nuclear holocaust, and they took various dark measures to survive it and plan for their utopian society thereafter. Now, in the Venom Lethal Protector series, they kidnapped Venom and extracted 5 symbiote children from his DNA to create soldiers to protect their new society. Those included Scream, Phage, Riot, Lasher, and Agony. Now, Venom and Spider-Man had to end up teaming up together to defeat them all. We'll see how this affects with the news that Carnage would be the villain of this movie. Maybe they're like retconning Carnage's origin to have the Life Foundation behind his symbiote attachment.
No, well, they could definitely still do an offshoot from his symbiote.
Right. We could have a lot more villains. It could be Carnage, and then those are people who lead his way to uncovering how Carnage is another symbiote. Well,
don't add more villains.
Yeah. Well, also those 5. Like, I know there's fans out there of those 5, but it's fine if they don't. It's fine if they don't pop up. There's also Toxin. There's also Anti-Venom. There's like there's a million more that you can do. Right. Those 5 are fine for not being in a movie for the next like couple years. Yeah. Venom 3 will get those, and we'll be everyone will be happy about it. Yeah. But that makes sense for Carnage. Like honestly, off the top of my head, I can't remember. All I know is that Carnage was Venom's like the symbiote made a little baby, and it went to Cletus Cassidy because they shared a cell, and that's what it is. And then they joined and they made Carnage.
They found him in prison, and that's
And this, you could just take Cletus or whatever character you want to play Carnage. You guys can calm down. It's okay if it's not Cletus. It can be somebody else.
I know. Well, a part of me was just like, they might change the name, honestly, because Cletus is just a slack-jawed yokel.
Yeah. And like, it's fine if you changed it. Also, it makes sense. Like, you get a prisoner. You want to test out if we can take the symbiote and give it to somebody else. And like, no, you can't. Like, it doesn't work that way. And like, Carnage goes crazy and starts killing a lot of people.
Yeah. I could see just the Life Foundation being used as like part of his conspiracy that he's like uncovering to find out like how far his symbiote has traveled, and he's found out that this like secret society has been actually using this sickness that he has in his soul to weaponize it and do horrible things with it. So that's what leads him into the story. That's my guess of why they're pulling the Life Foundation as like a detail from the comics.
I also heard that they were going to pull from the Venom planet storyline as well, with the Clintar and like what they are and everything. That'd be kind of interesting too. Really complicated when you get into that. Like it's. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that this picture gave us all the answers to all of those things. Can we do a cake down now?
Yeah, okay, yeah. His mouth has been watering for a cake down. Okay, let's move on to the second image to zoom in and hands on. Yesterday, the Russo brothers, who directed the 2 upcoming Avengers movies, tweeted a picture of this epic cake for their wrap party now that production on both movies has ended. Now, just look at this thing. When does this stop being a cake and start being art that is probably edible? Is all art edible? I eat paint, you know? I don't know. Okay, but if you look closely, some of the design features may include some details for the upcoming films. I can't believe we're analyzing a cake.
Well, these are people that have been exposed to the shoots, at least, of Infinity War. They definitely know a lot more than we do.
It could be referencing some inside jokes about how the plot will go, or some of this art that they've had to construct on sets. So
you're saying there's going to be a cake. There's going to be a cake in the movie? Is that what you're saying?
Or this cake is the entire plot of the film, is what I'm saying.
It's written on the other
we don't need to see the movie. We just got to look at the cake.
That's the new Rockstars theory approach. Let's find out how.
Okay, so let's look at this. It depicts Thanos falling back as he collects his Infinity Stones. He's holding the blue Space Stone in one hand, the green Time Stone in the other. At his feet is a red Reality Stone. On the surface beneath him is the yellow Mind Stone and the purple Power Stone. And then at the bottom corner, if you look closely at the edge of the cake, is the orange Soul Stone, which we still have yet to see in the MCU. Probably going to be in Black Panther. We'll see.
Please.
Now, along the middle tier are the logos for the Avengers characters. There's Hulk, Cap, Iron Man, Thor, and Black Widow. Presumably, the logos of the other MCU heroes line the other sides of the cake, or maybe everyone else will die. And those are the only. And then from that tier, this is probably the most interesting. You can make out 3 arms bursting out of this cosmic field to grab the platform that Thanos is standing on. The one closest to us is Black Widow. The wrist ammo there is a signature of hers. But the other 2 are a bit harder to tell. There's a reddish one behind hers. I'm thinking it might be Vision. I would say Doctor Strange, but he wears the yellow gloves.
Oh, Vision. You're right. I was thinking Iron Man, but there's no there. Like Like it with
Doesn't
the
look like chunky
detail.
armor or anything.
No,
True.
yeah. I mean,
Very smooth.
honestly, it looks like Daredevil's hand, but
Yeah.
they
They
will never do it.
They'll never do it. And then the one in the back has claws that are scraping the surface, making me think it's Black Panther's vibranium claws.
That one?
The one in the very, very back. You can't even
Yeah.
see the arm. You just see the claws that are scraping.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the top.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, some have suggested that these three are the ones who might die, but guys, I highly doubt Black Panther or Black Widow will die in these Avengers movies. Sounds like Marvel has big plans for both of their futures. Although Vision, I could see him going down.
Honestly, I think that they might be twisting things because everyone can see Vision dying, especially with the stone in his head.
Yeah, there's that shot where it's getting clawed out.
So I'm thinking like also these could be the ones that make it.
Right. These are the three to survive, or the three to like bring this trio teams up in some interesting way to go on some mission to destabilize. Maybe that's like a metaphor we can look into. I don't know. What do you guys see any clues on this cake that might tell us?
Well, what about the other arm?
I only see three. Do you see a fourth?
Yeah, you guys see the arms, and then that one's bursting out at the bottom.
Is
It
that
just
just
looks
like
like
a pillar?
crystals or something.
That one going up, it doesn't look like so much like an arm. No, for the left, that one.
Yeah,
That one?
that looks like a pillar of
It
some
does
sort.
look like a
Yeah,
pillar,
it's
but
like a pillar a little bit.
just because it's bursting out like the rest of them, it seems more important.
It's
I
kinda
think
hard to tell.
I think its purpose is for cake physics, though.
Yeah, right. Just for stabilization of the cake.
But you're right. They probably wouldn't have just done that and not decorated that one part, and they left it as yellow cake.
That's true.
It probably is a little bit.
I thought that was
something.
whole. I thought like it was just like with the lighting of the thing, like we couldn't really tell what it is. But maybe you guys are right. It's probably maybe it's Doctor Strange's glove. Could be something like that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
if we're not like, yeah, you got a good idea that this could be just a false lead, or maybe the cake designer just wanted to do those 4 arms.
Well, and the
Three
smudge on
arms.
the spatula.
Wait a minute.
Wait.
Someone got into this cake early. Just Kevin Feige's like, he's
did
fired.
this?
Whoever it was.
Fire the interns.
I do love the detail in Thanos' face and pecs and the pecs that they have there. Those, did you guys see them? They're very defined. Do you think you can eat Thanos?
No. Yeah, not unless you hold the entire gauntlet.
Yeah.
Just a mitt.
Look at this dude holding the umbrella over the cake in the picture. Like, where was this? I thought it was in a studio because they have those blue screens set up. Why would they ever bring this cake out in the rain?
So yeah, those blue screens are interesting. Those are the ones that they actually bring to when they shoot out in the real world. You bring those screens up and you block out certain things, and now you can relocate anything. It happens all the time on shows like Law and Order and those kinds of shows. Like so they don't
Dragons
have to
flying
shoot.
around in the background of Law and Order. Yeah.
So they don't have to shoot in the middle of the day or whatever. They can shoot early
Interesting.
morning and add people later. So.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm surprised that they said they wrapped both films already, which is very impressive. I know there's gonna be reshoots for the next couple months, a year, for years.
Forever.
There's gonna be reshoots.
Forever,
but
yeah. They'll always be retconning.
I think in April or May when the movie comes out, I'm definitely going to want to go back and look at this cake.
You think it'll still be good?
I think, no, this cake stays good forever.
That
This
is
cake
like
they
people
put in
doing
the
wedding
freezer
cake.
and- yeah.
That intern driving it to the set was probably having a heart attack because that's how do you move
Right.
that? How do you get that anywhere?
No, I for my last job, I had to transport an apology cake. I used to work on a talk show where they had a guest that they pissed off. So I, as a PA, had to drive an apology cake, and I buckled it in to my seatbelt to make sure it didn't. And then the person who received it tweeted saying, "Hey, thanks for giving me a smushed cake." And I thought I was going to get fired. And I think she just did it as a joke, not realizing I was just on the show for a week at that point, and I almost got fired for it. And she lied. She lied. It was not smushed.
But did you sit on it?
I did. Well, I did take a slice of it, but I didn't smush it.
But you fixed the rest of it so it looked like it was a natural smush.
Yeah, it's BS. Don't ever work in production. Okay. Or don't ever work on talk shows.
Do not listen to that. Our current
We are
staff
hiring.
who is currently working in production on a talk show, literally as we speak.
Okay, let's move on to our need to know lightning round. Okay, you guys tweet us questions. I'm going to fire them at my co-host. I have to answer them quickly and with no hesitation. Are we ready? Yes, Sam. Here we go. At This Is Really Sam. Did you write this? I don't know. All right. Who should be casted to play Wolverine now that Hugh Jackman is done?
Joel Edgerton.
Ooh, that'd be
Change my name. It was gonna be Taron as a younger one. Joel Edgerton.
Filup at that Lily Mason wants to know, which superhero costume would you wear purely for aesthetic reasons? No getting powers from the costume. I like Iron Man's armor.
Okay, if it's summer and we're headed into summer, I want to look like Jason Momoa's Aquaman. But that's like a pie in the sky dream, right? It's just like tattoos are my costume. But if it's fall or winter or just like one of those days where you kind of just want to be like, I'm going to go to the coffee shop and write or whatever, Rorschach.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that just all your breath?
There's cooling in there. There's cool. It's liquid cool.
Of course.
It's
I
ink.
thought when you said summer, I was like, Starfire, of course. It's the best one to go to the beach in.
Okay, for me, at Eleonora_DE wants to know Hogwarts house, and maybe we can all do our Hogwarts houses. Okay, so when I did Pottermore, they sorted me into Ravenclaw, which I guess is okay, and then at Evermorny it was Thunderbird. But I mean, I want to be in Slytherin. I want to be ambitious and power-seeking and evil.
I've never been sorted, so maybe you guys can tell me what house I'm most likely to be in.
Well, your choice is taken into an account. So what would you want to be in?
No. I don't. I want to know how my personality dictates what I'd be. I know that I.
Hufflepuff.
Ravenclaw. You're smart.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Gryffindor.
Yeah.
No, I got Hufflepuff first, and then I retook it, and I got Gryffindor, and I'm gonna go with that one.
You retook it?
I took it because they said they changed, they had updated something, so I took it and I got Gryffindor. And when we retook it, and since she's not here, Maud didn't get Gryffindor. She got Slytherin, I think. I don't know.
Oh, God, yeah.
And she'll never admit it, but she did. It was in the video.
And
I
she
know
cried,
it is.
didn't she?
She was so unhappy about it.
Yeah.
You guys
do the thing where
don't
you got
tweet
your
her.
Patronus?
I got my Patronus was a black stallion.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
That's pretty cool.
Because
I mean, it's
the
a
Patronus
horse.
test is so weird. It's like wind or rain. It's like wind. I don't know. Yeah,
I didn't
totally
take it. I
relate to
photoshopped it. I did the 90s version of The Rock, and I called him my Jabronis. That's it.
The Rock is all of our Patronus,
Yeah.
guys.
I
Just
would love that.
Summon your happiest feeling, and the Rock will show up. Okay, next up, let's look at what we got in the pipeline for videos coming out on the channel in this next week. Sam, you got something coming out.
Iron Man's breakdown for the MCU. We're gonna do with the release of Avengers: Infinity War. There's a couple fans who did the math, and they said if you watch every MCU movie once a week leading up to Avengers: Infinity War's release, you'll have watched everything with Thor Ragnarok included and Black Panther coming out in the middle there, so that works out. So it'll be like a week after you can come and check out the previous week's breakdown. So Iron Man's coming out next week. I also am working on a Hulk one right now. I already started watching it. I remember liking it in theaters. It does not hold up a little bit, but I'm excited.
But that's really, really exciting, I think, also for me to get to read that and watch that, and also for the fans. This means we're going back and we're going to do classic MCU breakdowns of films that we weren't around for. We weren't born yet.
No, not at all.
But that we've always wanted to go back and identify all the Easter eggs and things you might have missed. So I'm really excited for that.
I am. It's been very fun. Iron Man definitely holds up. So if you guys want to go watch it.
Yeah. Also, guys, I know, like, in Star Wars circles, we have been waiting for a trailer for the Han Solo movie.
And Girlfriends.
And it's... all right, so I was going to talk about this as a whole segment, but it's a super nerdy thing to even talk about. We still have nothing, and we are only 4.5 months away from this movie coming out, which I know seems like a normal amount of time for any other movie, but just for comparison, The Last Jedi and Rogue One's first teasers came out 8 full months before the movie came out. The Force Awakens had a whopping 13 months before that, but they were also kind of reminding us that, hey, Star Wars movies are coming back. So I know that, like, this is weird because it's not coming out in December, it's coming out in May, and they wanted The Last Jedi to get out of the way. I'm a little worried that, maybe this means that they don't know what kind of footage or how they want to frame the marketing on this.
So weird. I think it's got to be strategically timed. January is a very frustrating time for the studios, and they also don't like paying during this period their marketing budgets.
Right.
They're usually being settled, and that's why you see in December you see so much marketing for films, and ads are actually really expensive, and because they're running out of time to spend the money they got. And in January, the budgets are kind of still being established, and they're being a little more hesitant. So it's always kind of a dry period during January, but it definitely feels like, well, your movie's coming way too soon to wait.
Yeah. It sounds like, based on rumor, Ron Howard did tweet saying that now that The Last Jedi's done, it will be coming soon. And some people are saying it could happen on Monday. So we'll see. By the time you're watching this, there may be a trailer. And yes, as soon as that trailer comes out, we will have a breakdown for it. Of course. Also, you may have noticed we're continuing our Game of Thrones rewatch series, but we're kind of figuring out a new, what I think is better way of doing it. We're rather than going by episode, which a lot of them are kind of forgettable in my opinion, we're just looking at specific epic moments, specific scenes. Not all of them are big battle ones. Sometimes they're just like interesting cryptic scenes that are just kind of left out there for us to break down. A lot of you, we just did one on the Golden Crown scene from season 1 of Viserys' epic, amazing death. And a lot of you have been hitting us up saying, oh, please continue doing the episode by episode breakdown. The reason we do that is we just can't, it's kind of a business thing. We can't justify putting so much resources for the next 50 episodes and doing entire, we have to put a lot of work into those.
Yeah, there's no shame in saying those videos are by far the most expensive videos we make.
They're most expensive. They're creatively my most favorite to do. So I understand what you're feeling. But I will say, doing this Viserys scene, I know it's new for a lot of you. I was able to go way more in depth and thematic and explore some of the more interesting things than I would have done for sure if I had to break down the entire episode of episode 6. There's no way I would have been able to make some of those connections if I had to spend time covering the whole episode. So I love being able to just go back to the scenes that I really care about more than the rest of the series. Even though I love the whole series, I love every episode of this. There's certain scenes that just stand out that if I'm going to be spending time rewatching things, I gotta pick and choose my battles and prioritize stuff.
And that said, we're always open to creative solutions. If you guys that are the diehards that were turning up and watching those, there weren't that many of you, but if you guys are diehard fans about the episode by episode breakdowns, I mean, we're open to ideas on ways that you would want that kind of coverage. You just got to keep in mind, like, you know, we're the smallest company on the street, and like whenever our resources kind of all go into one place, I mean, that's it. We can't really do anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And we also have in the pipeline a few more videos on The Last Jedi that we found some new interesting things about that movie that we want to discuss and break down. But for now, let's comes the time for our 15-second shout out. Woo! Each of us has 15 seconds to shout out, plug, ramble about anything we want. Sam, why don't you start?
Yes, we talked about it before the show started, and I'm blanking on what it was, and it was a show. I don't remember. No. It's
We'll come back to you.
The greatest. Go ahead.
Okay, for me, I want to plug Dark.
13 seconds.
Dark on Netflix. It's a German series, but they have American or English subtitles and dub. It's kind of like a mix of Stranger Things meets Twin Peaks, small town where kids go missing. It's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I want to plug What Happened to Monday. It's a Netflix movie, sci-fi dystopian future. The idea is that you can no longer have more than one child in this society. So if you do, they like put them away and they freeze them until a time when we have the resources to sustain more children. But unfortunately, one person has septuplets.
Oh.
And they try to pass them all off as the same person.
Wow.
And one of them goes missing.
Wow.
What happened?
Because they have
Monday?
Their names are the different days of the
Monday,
week.
Susie, Jacqueline, American Girl, all names.
You can tune in every Jacqueline at 2 p.m. and check out the show.
I'm going to zip back to you.
You got 4 seconds.
I remembered. It's the trailer for Altered Carbon. It's a new Netflix series starring Joel Kinnaman, who everyone's favorite, Rick Flag, and the Suicide Squad. I believe the premise is immortality is now achievable because we download our brains into new bodies.
If you're rich,
and you can also like add new attributes to those bodies. Like I think you can get muscle memory, and the Joel Kinnaman's character just got downloaded into a new body. 300 years in the future, he's been frozen for that long and not used, and so now he has to try to solve the murder of someone who is alive because they got downloaded into a new body, but how they got murdered before. I believe that's what the premise is, and it's like Blade Runner-esque future.
Exactly.
But like I think they tone it down just a little bit, make it a little grittier. It looks like another swing at like a big franchise for Netflix, kind of like a Stranger Things.
Honestly, it's really likely that is going to be our next big show, like that we're all gonna obsess over and break down and cake down.
Cake down. Oh, please more cake downs. I would love to do a cake
Altered
down.
Carbon cake.
All right, well, let's return to our trivia question that we asked earlier. And just to remind everyone of what it was, what alias did Natasha Romanov use when she first met Tony Stark, embedded as a legal notary in his company? In Iron Man 2, we have our answer card over there. But before we reveal it, let's go down the line and reveal what we said.
Filup wrote pepper knots. Pepper Potts.
I almost wrote Paul Potts.
Paula Potts.
Sam says Sadie Hawkins or Jane Bond. Guys, in both these cases, Tony's gonna pick up that.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds
You're
fake.
the
Not a very
Sadie
good
Hawkins?
spy. All right, Philip, what it?
All right, Erik wrote Ashley Mansfield. Is that the website for people like guys that want to cheat on their wives?
Ashley Madison.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't know why I know that. Yeah. Ashley Mansfield, I think, is a girl I had a crush on in grade school.
Hit us
never
up
forget
and
you.
Tell us why you never went for it.
Isn't it weird how long it's been since we have a Star Wars trailer, Ashley? It's only 4.5 months away.
What she didn't see in you, easily
Right.
understand. But the correct answer
is Natalie Rushman. Natalie Rushman, which I guess it's
Russian
initials.
name.
Russian man.
She's a
Natasha
Russian man.
Romanov, Natalie Rushman.
Who was closest?
Close. Yeah, all right. So based on
Judges, who was the closest?
Jane Bond.
Eric was the closest.
By having a normal name.
With a Jane Bond.
And then who was the furthest? What was yours again?
You wrote Pepper Knots.
Sadie Hawkins
and Jane Bond.
And then Jane Bond.
And you wrote two names.
Yes.
Losers.
I lost. Okay. Great.
Yeah. Okay,
Middle
so
of the road.
as a winner, I'll do our goodbyes. And as our, but first we got to run through our in other news headlines. We didn't have time for it, but they're still important that we want you to know about them. And Philip, as the loser, as decided by our judges of our trivia question, you will have to read these headlines. At the end of each headline, you have to make a joke, cleverly riff on it.
All right, here we go. The release date of the upcoming X-Men movie, New Mutants, was moved from this April back to February 2019. While this summer's Deadpool 2 has been moved up 2 weeks from June to May 18th, aiming for more Memorial Day weekend viewers. So if you want to know what's not going to do well, then check something out in February 2019 when you got pushed back a whole year. Bazinga. I made it a joke. I'm just mad about that. This goes, all right. The Gambit movie is now coming out February 14th, 2019, and it just lost Gore Verbinski as director due to scheduling issues, making him the third director to leave the project. But the first director to be available now on Valentine's Day, February 14th. He could be your mon ami.
Dab.
I say dab. I don't do that.
Dab.
And movie theaters in China have completely abandoned The Last Jedi. It's just not doing well there. They dumped 92% of its screenings in the country after the movie had underperformed there. So luckily, 8% of screenings are still going to result in 4% people really pissed and 4% people really apologizing for it a lot. Bang. Batman solo film director Matt Reeves confirmed he has the story worked out and he is currently outlining, but that a script still hasn't been finished. Also, has been finished, Ben Affleck as Batman.
He can't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. He's really excited. And finally, a Game of Thrones themed ice hotel has opened in Finland. Didn't this happen years ago? Featuring large ice sculptures of dragons and White Walkers looming over lobbies and bedrooms. So if nothing sets the mood like an ice zombie sitting in that room, then Ashley Mansfield, I don't know how Erik is ever going to win you over.
Just, give it some thought.
Time for goodbyes.
Time for goodbyes, which I'll take for. Hey, partners, thank you for watching this week's episode of New Rockstars News. This is just McConaughey.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty good. Now I hit my tooth.
McConaughey's a cowboy.
I want to thank our hosts, Sam Bashor at Sam Bashor, Erik Voss at AA Voss, and Phil Molina at Famo.
So this is what you get for winning? We have to get put through this?
Yeah.
Partner, it's what you get for losing.
Oh, gosh.
Comment down below and tweet us at New Rockstars.
Yeah,
Like this video, share it around, subscribe to it. Thank you. We're New Rockstars for all the deep dives into stuff you love. Guys, thank you for letting me do that. Right? No, I won't do it again.
Oh, you're
See you next
welcome.
week. Bye, guys.
Bye.